The world Jewish population is concentrated mainly in two places, Israel and the United States. There are just over 6 million in Israel, just under 6 million in the US. And this gives American Jews a great deal of influence over both Israel and the rest of us in the diaspora. There is, however, a major problem with American influence, and that is the overpowering presence of Professor Alan Dershowitz, who has so much to say for himself and says it to so many people that he has virtually appointed himself as spokesman for Jews all over the world, and some of us don't like their idea one little bit. For example, look at his abominable behavior concerning our most ancient and sacred beliefs.
If you are willing as human beings to abdicate your intelligence to a being who you don't understand or know, what will that lead you to? It will lead you to being Abraham. In the Bible, God comes down and says to Abraham, kill your son. Abraham says, sure.
The thing about Professor Dershowitz is that he was taught his religion by Talmudic rabbis, and Talmudic rabbis don't understand the ancient spirit of the Jewish people. If Professor Dershowitz had been taught by decent teachers, he would understand the story of Abraham and his son. And what would he understand? Well, some 5,000 years ago, the Stone Age evolved into the Bronze Age, and humanity made major advances in many fields. And our ancestors were intellectually equal to us in every way except for our 5,000 years of experience. During the dynamic Bronze Age, one particular tribe made what turned out to be the most important discovery of all. They discovered the power of decency and discipline. This discovery was to raise them high above all the other tribes who were stunted by the idolatry, superstition, and brute force imposed on them by the tyrants and priests who ruled over them. Now, this spirit of decency and discipline created tranquility, freedom, and opportunity. And the tribe developed an attitude of enterprise, action, and initiative that soon left their struggling neighbors far behind. The tribe began to see this spirit as a living thing with unlimited wisdom and power. In fact, they began to see it as nothing less than the master of the whole world. And the name of this tribe was Abraham, eventually to be known as Israel. As Abraham achieved ever greater success, it provoked the envy and fury of their neighbors, and became more and more threatening until war became inevitable. This endangered the next generation of Abraham, and the tribe had to decide whether to carry on in the faith or abandon it and settle for mediocrity. Now, as we know, the tribe of Abraham made a very wise decision. They did not abandon their faith and did not settle for mediocrity. They decided to put their full confidence in their faith, in the belief that it would inspire their children just as it had inspired them, including on the battlefield, and the next generation would be frightened of no one. And as soon as they made this decision, they saw that there was in fact nothing to fear. There was no risk. The Spirit would indeed see them through. So in modern terms, the tribe of Abraham had shown the gumption to commit their children to what they knew was right, and after that the sky was the limit. And that is what the story of Abraham's commitment of his son means, and not Professor Dershowitz's childish take on it.
The Bible is often wrong. It is often right. Of course, it is often brilliantly right. Many of the 10 Commandments are worthy of being followed. Not all of them, but many of them. It's not worth following the 10th Commandment that says, do not make a graven image or do not take God's name in vain. I don't care about that. I don't care whether you take God's name in vain or make graven images. That's not the concern of a society.
So Dershowitz tells the Jewish people that it's okay to make graven images. Well, if his damnable Talmudic rabbis had taught him the 10 Commandments as they were taught by the Levites, using the oral law designed by Moses and the elders and not by them, he would know that we were told not to make graven images because we are responsible for our own lives and our own affairs and our own decisions, and we have to solve our own problems. We are not to hand over our responsibilities to any pieces of wood or stone or whatever. And we also don't hand them over to priestly con artists who'll take us to the cleaners because of our own godless stupidity. And contrary to Professor Dershowitz's opinion, we don't take the name of the Lord in vain because we don't sneer at integrity, and we don't have contempt for honesty, and we don't have contempt for decency, and we don't act like lawless savages. These are sacred things, and if we insult and disregard them as we've just witnessed Professor Alan Dershowitz doing, then we are headed for another visit to the gas chamber. Furthermore, the great professor doesn't seem to understand that tens of millions of American Christians are supporting Israel on the strength of biblical teachings. And when they see a Jew like Alan Dershowitz treating these vital articles of faith with such utter contempt, then what does it do for their attitude to Israel? There can be no doubt whatsoever. Dershowitz is the wrong man to speak for the Jews, and we have to make it generally known that his insolence, ignorance, and crass stupidity certainly does not represent Jewish thinking, and neither does he speak for us in any way whatsoever.